Welcome to Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Weldin. Today's story is called Octavia and the Juniors Go for a Walk, an adaptation of an Aesop's fable written for you by Daniel Hinds. Thanks! Enjoy the episode! Octavia and the Juniors Go for a Walk. Once upon a time, there was a man named Junior, who was the definition of a people pleaser. He'd go a mile out of his way just to make someone else happy, no matter what the cost was to himself. He had a son who was much the same, also named Junior, which made a whole lot of confusion for their little town. Eventually, after much debate, they started going by Junior Senior and Junior Junior to make everyone happy, even though it only helped a little. Now, Junior Junior and Junior Senior had a beautiful mule named Octavia. She was tall and strong with a proud face and perky tulip-shaped ears. Her coat was dappled red and brown, with white around her feet like little socks. Her mane fell in a wave of lemonade yellow, and her eyes were a carrot orange that twinkled while she worked. And Octavia worked quite happily all the time. Junior Senior and Junior Junior used her to pull plows and wagons and even give them the occasional ride. After a few years, though, their family was moving to a new city, and they had to find new homes for all their animals, Octavia included. The beautiful mule was excited about the prospect of a new home. She loved farm life, and she was happy she wasn't expected to move into the city with its fast cars and loud noises. It was better that they sell her at the market to someone who would appreciate all that she could do. So one morning, the father and son woke up early and came out to Octavia's stall in the barn to get her ready. They brushed out her golden mane and cleaned her dappled coat. They scrubbed her white sock-like feet until they shone bright and new. Finally, they tied some blue ribbons onto her flowing tail and put a new saddle across her back.
"She's a beautiful mule,"
said Junior Senior. "And a hard worker," agreed Junior Junior. "We'll be able to find a good home for her, no problem, I bet."
"Darn tootin',"
said Junior Senior. "Roo-ha!" agreed Octavia, and they set out on the road to the market. Now, usually, one or the other would ride Octavia when they took this trip, but that day, they wanted to keep her looking pristine, so they both walked alongside her. They crossed through their fields and onto the main road, passing families and riders on horseback and the occasional pickup truck. The sun rose higher and higher, and soon the heat was bearing down on them like a weighted blanket. Sweat stained their collars and their armpits, and as they walked, a group of old ranchers on horseback laughed at them as they rode by.
"Hey, y'all,"
one said.
"You know you can ride that thing, right? Pretty silly to just be walking when you've got a perfectly good mule."
"Aw, leave him alone," said another.
"Obviously, the mule's a smart one."
The ranchers all laughed and rode off on their horses. Junior Senior and Junior Junior looked at each other, embarrassed.
"Maybe they're right,"
said the father, always wanting to make everyone around him happy.
"Go ahead and hop on up and take a ride, son. No sense of us both walking in this heat."
"All right, Pop," said Junior Junior. "Roo-ha!" agreed Octavia. They traveled a few more miles down the road, Junior Senior walking and Junior Junior up on Octavia's back. The sun kept beating down, but the mule didn't mind. She was happy to have a job to do. All was well and good until they passed a group of old men playing dominoes on their porch.
"Well, that's just disgraceful,"
one of them said. "How you gonna make your old man walk, boy?" said another. "Have some respect for your elders."
"Yeah,"
agreed the first.
"When I was your age, I'd walk 20 miles back and forth to school, uphill both ways. And in my day, the hill was covered in alligators, big hungry ones."
The father and son looked at each other, and the son blushed, embarrassed. "Well, they're right, Pop," he said, and slid down off the mule's back. "Why don't you ride for a while?" "Roo-ha!" agreed Octavia. Junior Senior didn't much care either way, but he still wanted to make everyone happy. So he took Junior Junior's place up on Octavia's saddle, and once again they started down the road. They traveled for a few more miles, the road growing busier and busier as they got closer to the market. Junior skipped along beside the mule, and Junior rode easily on her broad back. Octavia was happy to be on the road. She pranced down the dirt, her lemonade yellow mane tossing back and forth. It was a pleasant ride until they passed a group of women heading to the market, pulling their kids along in a big red wagon. "Look at you," they called to Junior. "A healthy man making that poor boy walk. His little legs can barely keep up, and there you go, sitting high and mighty on your mule." "I don't mind walking," Junior said. "The poor boy," the woman called at them again. "You're going to stunt his growth. His legs are going to be stiff as pins, and he'll have to wobble on home." Okay, Junior said, still wanting to make everyone happy. They couldn't walk. Junior couldn't ride alone, and he couldn't ride by himself either. He thought for a moment, and then pulled his son up on the mule's back with him.
"We'll ride together," he said.
"All right, Pop," Junior said. "Roo-ha!" Octavia agreed, panting a little under the extra weight. The trio made their way down the road, and now they could see the colorful tents of the market dotting the horizon. "We're almost there," Junior said, relieved. Soon they would find a great family for Octavia, and they'd all go home happy.
"That poor mule!"
a nearby wagoner shouted, and Junior groaned inside.
"A hot day like this, and you're riding double on that beautiful beast."
"So rude," agreed another. "2 donkeys on a mule." Everyone nearby laughed at that, and Junior flushed red. He wanted to make everyone happy, and it just wasn't working out for him. They couldn't walk. Junior couldn't ride alone. He couldn't ride by himself, and they couldn't ride together. He thought for a long moment. It didn't really leave him many options. "What do we do, Pop?" Junior asked.
"Well,"
said Junior,
"I do have one idea."
"Roo-ha?" Octavia asked. A short while later, the people in the market stopped what they were doing. Heads turned, conversations stopped, and jaws fell open in surprise. "What in the world?" someone asked, and then Junior and Junior trudged into view, carrying Octavia between them. The pretty mule was stretched out comfy on a blanket, and the father and son were huffing and puffing and holding up the sides. "She's heavy, Pop."
"Almost there, Junior."
"Roo-ha!" Octavia agreed, snuggling down with a smile. With that, everyone in the market started to laugh. They laughed and laughed until tears were rolling down their cheeks and their sides ached and they could barely breathe. "Who carries a mule?" they shouted, barely getting it out between giggles. Junior turned bright red, more embarrassed than he'd been all day. He had tried to please everyone, and now they were judging him more than ever.
"I just want to sell my mule,"
he stammered. But everyone kept laughing, and at the end of the day, no one would buy Octavia. They figured if the father and son had had to carry her to the market, she must be too weak to walk on her own. Never mind carry a rider or pull a heavy load. Junior tried to explain, but he got laughed right out of the market.
"Let's just head home, Pop,"
Junior said. "We can try again next week." "Roo-ha!" Octavia agreed. They turned and walked home. And that's the day the father and son learned this hard lesson. When you try to make everyone happy, you end up leaving no one happy, yourself included. Maybe you should walk alongside your mule so she doesn't get dirty. It's better to do what you know is right than to let others bully you into doing things their way. The end. Thanks for listening.